San Francisco.
All right, you guys, it's episode 47 of Inner Demons, and without further ado, I'm going to get straight to it. So we ain't going to do no flim-flamming tonight. I'm going to jump straight back into this. Now, like I do every time I put an episode of Inner Demons out, I always listen to the last episode. So I listened to episode 46 to try to help remind me of where I was at, so I'm not repeating the same stuff that I went over in the last episode, because you guys are ruthless. In the comments, you guys always let me have it, which you're supposed to, and tell me, B, man, you already covered that. How many times you going to keep going over that? So, you know, I don't want to be repetitive or keep repeating myself. That's boring. So let me try to pick up where I left off. Now, at the end of episode 46, I believe that, you know, I just discharged off parole for the first time as an adult. There's also a couple things that I kind of want to back up on. You guys got to remember that, you know, when I'm giving you guys these stories, or I'm talking about all this stuff, we're talking over 30 years of information, of things that happened throughout the years. I don't know how much you guys can remember, but when I think back on it, all the violations that I did, all the time that I've done over the years, it's kind of hard to keep that in perspective just off top, unless I sit down and write it out. In other words, what I'm saying is sometimes I get violations and time frames mixed up at different times. So, you know, there's a few things that I missed that I kind of want to cover that were relevant. Anyways, one of the things besides the Corcoran, I told you guys how I went to Corcoran and how I had to strip Carlitos because basically Corny, Skip, Pinky, and those brothers that were over there in Santa Rita that were fighting Operation Black Widow felt like they were losing Corcoran to C's like Carlitos that were under the influence of other C's up in the Bay, like Conejo, like DC, Chuco. So, you know, that power struggle was just barely starting to come into play, and you know, Corny and them seen it. So they wanted to get Carlitos basically out of that position and stop any chance of losing Corcoran and seeing a bigger split. So anyways, that was the whole purpose behind that. So, you know, I told you guys how all that played out, and Mono from Open was appointed, and, you know, it basically ended up all working out. Now, one thing that happened before that, now prior to me getting shipped off to Corcoran, I was with Caja, Mark Rodriguez, boxer from San Jose in San Quentin. At that time, this was around the time when Copas came through on a violation. He was there. They had him on walk alone because the Monterey Herald had put out an article basically saying that Rico and Lobo and them were trying to assassinate him, or basically were on their way to do it. And because they seen those VCU units, like I told you guys, they aborted that hit. Now, also that was happening at that same time, the other thing that was happening was the C's from Salinas had that pact that I told you guys about, where, you know, they basically had put their, you know, their loyalties together. They all made a pact that they were gonna, if they were gonna go down, they were all gonna go down together. But that they had Copas' back to the fullest. And unfortunately, at that time, you know, the other C's that were there that were outside of that pact would have been their targets. And that would have been Caja, Mark Rodriguez, Chico from Salinas. It would have been me. It would have been some other C's that were there. And I'm talking about Smokey, Boxer, Roque Martinez. I'm talking about Powder. Suave wasn't really part of it. He was there. I don't know which way he would have went if that would have ever kicked off, but something tells me that he would have stayed neutral. But anyways, there was about 5 or 6 of them that were there. I can't remember everybody. Now, the other thing that happened, and I believe I've talked about this before in the past, and probably some of my profiles or at other points in times when in the past when I've went over some of the past history that I've talked about is, me and Kaha, we had a pact of our own that, there was a sea that came through there. So let me kind of tell you guys what happened. There was a sea that came through there, and I'm not going to put him out there. I'm not even going to tell you guys where he was from because some of you might be able to narrow it down. Those of you that might have been privy to that information and know who I'm talking about, hey, then you know who I'm talking about. But I'm not going to put him out there. Anyways, he was a good C, solid, somebody that I really respected. Anyways, he got stretched out for the cases that he was there on. He ended up catching multiple cases. He went on basically on a spree, and they stacked him up. He had something like 30 felonies for the same thing he was doing out there. So, they stretched him out. He was looking at something like 30 years. However, at one point, he got shipped back to the county jail, his county jail, the county of commitment, for, I believe it was another case, something that they had to, a loose end that they had to tie up or something. And when he went through the county jail, I told you guys how, it's well, you guys are going to figure this part out right here. Well, so be it. How San Francisco County Jail, that's where he went back to, where San Francisco County Jail would, whenever you go out to a visit, they would have a tendency of letting anybody and everybody out that was basically on the floor, on the 6th floor. At that point in time, there was some sureños there and other tanks. And I believe they were down towards the other end, not A, B, C, D tank. Those are the tanks up in the front. I'm talking about the ones in the 6th floor back in the dorms. So anyways, this brother went back. He went out to a visit, and they let a Southsider out. Shout out to the Southsiders. You guys already know what it is. So he goes out there. He identifies, a Southsider out there, and, he goes out there. He sees his girl. They have their visit, their 30, 45-minute visit, whatever it is. And at the end of the visit, this guy walked up behind the Southsider, basically pulled his chin back and gave him a Kool-Aid smile from ear to ear. He ran a razor, RB, tomahawk, whatever you want to call it, from ear to ear and opened him up. Now, that kind of stuff, it does happen in San Francisco County Jail. And, I've told you guys how that is a liberal county, but, at some point, man, they will charge you for things like that, because although there is stabbings and slicings that do happen in the county jail, it's not that frequent that people get their throats cut like that. Oh boy, opened them up pretty good. Anyway, so, not only that, but the individual that he sliced, he ended up cooperating. He gave a statement, pointed him out. I even went to this guy's lineup to try to help him, because at the time, this guy had a tattoo on the side of his neck. He had his old lady's name that started with the C. I had script on my neck at that time. It was a name that started with the C. So I thought I was really going to be able to help him. I thought I was going to be able to take the heat off him, and a lot of his alleged victims were going to pick me, but it didn't work out like that. Anyways, when he did that, this individual pointed him out, and, they filed on him. They ended up filing a case on him. Now, because of the convictions that he had previously got from out there, he was looking at another 10 to 15 years, something like that. Now, when we were over there in Quentin, I was getting out within the year. I was doing a violation. Caja, Mark Rodriguez, same thing. He was there. He had matter of fact, he was going to get out before me. And we had made plans to basically, to get out and link up. Now, this was before BB got killed. I know that for a fact, because you understand what I'm going to tell you. And again, you guys got to understand, I'm trying to remember almost 30 years of information when I tell you guys these stories. And a lot of the times it's just easy to get this stuff jumbled up. It's, unless I sit down and write it out, that's the only way I'm going to be accurate. Otherwise, I get the times mixed up. but the information is still accurate. It's like peeling an onion. There's layers and layers and layers. Anyways, so we're there and we chop it up with this C, and he's like, hey, look, man, I got this case coming up, and I got this individual he's slated to go testify against me. He already made a statement. I got all the paperwork. It's like, I need some assistance. I need somebody that can stop that process. Basically, that's what he said. I'm not going to say nothing else but that. Just stop the process. He didn't want that individual to push the issue in court. So from that point on, I stepped up and volunteered myself instead of trying to delegate something like that to somebody else, where I'm going to end up possibly getting pulled in, because it usually happens like that. I offered my services. I gave him my word. You know what? Give us the address and we'll take care of it. So being that Mark Rodriguez was scheduled to get out before me, and I'm talking about our dates were within a week. That's how close it was, when we were to paroling together. It was like he was going to get out a week before me. I told the other individual, just give him all the information. Give him the address, give him the identifying information, anything that we need in order to go out there and take care of this. So that's what he did. Now, I ended up getting shipped off. I would go either to the Bay or to Corcoran at that time, and Caja would end up, he would either stay there or he got shipped off somewhere. I don't remember. But I remember getting out. Now, this is 99. I remember getting out, and this was like one of the first order of business that I wanted to take care of, because time was of the essence. And I gave my word to this brother, and I told him, bro, I give you my word. I'm personally going to see to it that we pay this individual a visit, that we'll get over there, and that it'll get taken care of. So, this is what he was expecting. This is what he was expecting. And like I said, I gave my word and Caja gave his word. I didn't know Caja before then. I never functioned with him on the streets, never functioned with him in prison. So, I took it for what it was worth. He seemed like a cool cat. He seemed like he was, a true believer at that time, somebody that was well educated. He'd been around. So when I got out in 99, after I took care of all the things that I needed to take care of out there just to get situated, I tried to call him. I tried to call Caja like 2 or 3 times. I kept blowing his phone up, and he would never answer the phone. And I texted him, and I was like, hey, bro, I'm trying to get a hold of you. This is such and such. You need to get back at me, bro. We're crunched for time, so you remember that situation that we need to take care of, bro. You need to holler back at me. So I got at him like 2, 3 times. He never responded back. So, it was to the point to where I almost felt like I had to get it leadership and let them know, hey, look, this is what happened when we were over there in Quentin. Because this is the thing. Like I said, my word was everything, especially to another C. And I took it serious. So I felt like if this was something that we just allowed to we forgot about it, we didn't do nothing about it, that it would have some kind of an impact. I'm not going to say we would have got hit, we would have got removed or nothing like that. But, this brother might have put it out there at some point, been like, look, they gave me their word and nothing happened. You know what I mean? So I felt like I was in a dilemma at that point. I felt like homeboy wasn't trying to reach back out, and then he gets back at me, right? He reaches out, but I get some crazy vibes when he gets at me. He calls me up. He's drunk. He's at a club, and he's like, bro, he's like, check it out, homie. He's like, I know you called, but it's like, it's been crazy. It's been hectic out here in San Jose. He's like, you know, they just whacked BB last week. They just whacked him a couple days ago. He's like, you know, the grand jury, they're pulling people in, and you know, they pulled me in, and I'm like, hey, bro, hey, I didn't call you to talk about all that. You know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, I don't even want to hear about it. You know, it's not that I couldn't be trusted with information like that. It's that I'm looking out for myself. I don't want to know. You know, if there's things that are going on like that, and you know, you're brought in the loop, and you know, you're told about certain things, then if something gets leaked out and people are scrutinizing and looking at everybody that knows, you're involved. So I learned that a long time ago. That's like one of the first things I learned. So, you know, I told him, look, I don't want to talk about that, bro. You know, my whole reason for calling you is because of the situation that you remember we gave such and such our word that we would take care of that situation, bro. So what's up, man? You know what I mean? Am I going to come out there and meet you? You're going to meet me? How are we going to do this? And again, he was drunk. He wasn't making sense. He just kept on talking about, you know, the grand jury. And I'm like, hey, homie, call me back tomorrow. You know, call me when you're sober, bro. But get back at me. You know, we gave our word to this brother, man, and you would expect the same for you if you would have been in that situation. So next day, I'm expecting him to call. I'm ready to go. Straight up. At that time, I was ready to go. This was a good homie, somebody that, like I said, I respected, and I had a lot of love and respect for. And I wanted to take care of it for him. You know, I wanted him to know that when another C gave you his word that it was good, you know, and that, you know, you can put some confidence in it. And I felt like Caja was you know, because of what he was doing, it was affecting me as well. It was affecting my word. You know, at some point, he ends up calling me back again. But again, he's in a club, he's drunk, and I can't get through to the dude. I'm like, bro, look, just give me the address, give me the information, and I'll take care of it. But he didn't want to give it up over. He's like, you know what? I got it at the pad. I'll give it to you tomorrow. I'll call you, and I'll make sure you get it. Well, tomorrow never came. Tomorrow came, but came and went, and I never heard from him again. So, you know, at that point, I was disgusted with the dude. You know, weeks had went by, the court date had passed. I got at the homie, and I let him know, brother, look, I know it's not going to come as any consolidation, but I try to reach out to the other individual, and I ain't getting no kind of, you know, he's not making no effort to reach back out. He's not making no effort to take care of this with me. I'm ready to go, but I can't do nothing. I need that information. And I wasn't going to have him send it through the mail or nothing like that. Not for what we were planning. I just wasn't going to take a you know, a boneheaded chance like that. I was desperate, but I wasn't that desperate. Anyways, that was just something that was relevant that happened. You know, again, when he got on the phone the second time, all he kept talking about was BB this and BB that and the grand jury. And I had a funny sense that he was trying to cover up something that he might have said something when he went in front of the grand jury. You know, somebody that starts talking about something like that they shouldn't be talking about, and they're already trying to give explanations about things, and they're going on and on and on, long explanations. They're trying to cover for something, or they're feeling guilty about something. That's how I looked at it. So from that point on, I was like, I'm cool with dude. You know, when I get a visitor and I send a visitor over there to Santa Rita where Corny and Pinky and the rest of the fellas are at, I'm going to go ahead and report it, let them know everything that happened, and that's what I did. So that was another situation that happened. Now, I would, you know, spin forward a little bit, probably like about 6 months later, I would end up in Quentin. When I got there, Gaha was there. When he found out that I got there, he bounced. So for a minute, the brothers that were there was really nobody there in Quentin at that time. Just a lot of young Norteños, younger hermanos that didn't know what time it was. He had managed to collect a lot. He intercepted a lot of hot paperwork. Everything that went through his hands, he locked up on it, and he took that to the IGI. When I got there, that was his cue to lock it up, and that's what he did. I got there. I was housed in C section. He was housed in East Block at that time. And then I had heard like the next day when we went out to the yard, hey, Caja locked it up. And I was like, yeah, he knew I drove up. That's why he locked it up. So anyways, I don't know whatever happened to that dude. I know he got out for a minute. In light of everything that's happened over the course of time, it's not personal, but I was personally involved in that situation, and where it does become personal is the situation with the other C, because he's still somebody that I still hold in high regard, even though he's no longer active with the NF. It's still a situation that Gaha created, and that's why I pretty much, I pretty much don't care for him no more because of that situation. Otherwise, if he would have went on and did what he did, there's no way I could have held any kind of animosity towards him in light of what would later happen with me. So it's all based on that one situation. Anyways, so that was another thing that happened. Now, the other thing I just want to tell you guys is like, I got out there in Ukiah, and I managed to set up. I know I really didn't cover a lot of this, but I hooked up with that female. Again, she was working at the casino, and at first I didn't have no transportation. She had one car. I would end up getting my license, and then I bought a Regal out there. I ended up getting a Regal, threw some 13s on it, some Daytons. It was one of those cars that you see. It was a car that you don't want to be driving around. It was one of them dare you to pull me over cars. Anyway, so that was the other thing that ended up happening. But I got that car, and I was able to commute back and forth to Santa Rita in order to get a visitor to go up there. And that's what I did. I had brought a visitor to go in and basically pull out Pinky at that time, and I reported that situation with Gaha. Anyway, so that was just one other thing that happened at that time. Now, I'm out there in Ukiah, I get situated again. And like I told you guys, at first, all my contacts, I had basically fell out of contact with everybody. Not because of something that I did, but a lot of my channels, either they got stripped. Conejo was one of them. Either they got stripped or they cooperated, they dropped out, or they were no longer in a position to communicate because of where they were at. So I didn't have no channels open. So I just kind of fell back and just kind of waited. That was my thing. It was hot. Operation Black Widow was heating up. I knew I was being looked at as a possible unindicted co-conspirator. So I didn't want to rock the boat at all, do anything to get any kind of attention. My thing was to pick up a lunch pail, get a job, and just kind of just chill. So that's what I was doing. But like I told you guys, being that I ended up staying in touch with guys like Bubba, Baki, Baby Joker, Wino. Because I stayed in touch with those individuals, Chewy from Frisco, Nicoya, that's how I would end up getting plugged back in. And then, from that point on, now I'm almost to the point where I'm going to be out there in Santa Clara. But before I get there, I want to make sure that I'm covering everything. So, I'm out there in Ukiah still, and there's another situation that happened, and again, I believe I might have already mentioned this in a profile. I don't think I mentioned it in Inner Demons because I haven't got there yet. But anyways, so I'm living out there in Ukiah, and I got a little rinky-dink job, just something just to get me, just to kind of kill the idle time out there, and just to make a little bit of money. So I got a legitimate job. It's one of the only times I ended up getting a legitimate job. I'm not even gonna tell you guys what I was doing. It's lightweight, just crazy. But anyway, so that situation ended up happening with Brown Bob. I ended up hearing about that. While I'm out there, I ended up getting linked up with Eminem. He ends up plugging me in. Eminem comes up there a couple times. He drives out there. Remember, like the first time I met him, he came out there with like 6 Usos, big Samoans. And, they waited down the street. We had breakfast. We linked up. We talked business. And from that point on, I had a plug, a good solid plug, until he ended up getting whacked. Now, I didn't touch on a lot of that stuff. I didn't touch on, my interactions with Eminem, some of the things that we did, how we had our business set up. I didn't go into all that, and I probably should, because if I just keep skipping over a lot of this stuff, Inner Demons is going to come to an end quick. So there's going to be times where I'm probably just going to backtrack and go over different things that happened in the past that I didn't cover. Now, I'm out there in Ukiah, and I get a phone call from, I want to say it was Bubba. I want to say it was Bubba, or it was one of the other C's that was out there. Whoever it was, they called me up and they're like, B, we need your assistance. We need your assistance out here. The homie just got shot at, Bubba. He just got shot at in front of fucking Mateo's sister's pad. And, we basically need a couple brothers to come out here and watch the house. His sister, Nena, is, she's somebody I knew, but she had a house full of kids. So I guess what ended up happening is Bubba pulls up to the house. He was staying there, or he was coming by visiting or whatever. And however it happened, they spotted him. And when Bubba was walking up the driveway, they pulled up on him and they dumped on him. I heard, or at least according to Bubba, he did the Matrix, because, they shot at him like 8, 9 times, but they missed. But he said he was doing the Matrix in slow motion, ducking and dodging the bullets. Anyways, so without hesitation, I was like, I'm there, bro. I jumped in the car right there as soon as I got the phone call. I threw some clothes in the bag, told Vicky, that I had to go to Salinas. There was something I needed to take care of. And, Vicky, she never questioned the things that I was doing. She understood that I had obligations before I got into a relationship with her, and she knew how dedicated I was, about those obligations. And she knew that it wasn't nothing that I would ever compromise, or that I was ever willing to, be flexible with. It was whenever I got a call like that, I had to go. There was no room for any kind of, debate about it. So whenever something like that would happen, she understood. She was like, you got to do what you got to do. Just be careful. So anyways, I jumped in the car and I ended up taking off. I had a Bronco. Me and her had a Bronco at that time. And, she had a friend right there that was going to help her while I was gone with transportation. So it wasn't no big deal. Anyways, I get out there to Salinas that night. I get out there, Baby Joker ends up coming out. Another homeboy from Tulare County came out. And then you had the brothers from Salinas. Now, I think I told you guys a little bit about this situation in a war story, because, I remember talking about it. But anyway, so we all get out there and, we get to Nena's pad. First thing I do is I get with Bubba, and he tells me exactly what happened. How they ended up rolling up on him, how they shot up the house. He showed me the bullets, where he was at outside. One of the cars that was in the driveway got hit, had bullet holes in it. So, my whole thing was like, what do you guys want to do? I mean, what do you need us for? And basically their whole thing was just they wanted us to keep security on the house because they thought there was a good possibility that those guys might come back. So I was like, I'm here, bro. I'm gonna stay here for 4 or 5 days, whatever. So, I brought out a 38 that I had with me, and I believe there was a 357. Matter of fact, I brought out a 38 and a 357. Both of those guns were mine. They were guns that I had picked up in Salinas and had brought back. So, anyways, I lugged them back out there because of what was happening with this situation. So, I offered to stay there, but during the first day that everybody got there, our thing is let's go get some, let's go get some get backs. Let's run it back. There's a hood over there. I want to say it's called La Pasada. If a lot of you from Monterey, Salinas, the Salad Bowl, shout out to Salinas. You guys should know what I'm talking about. That's the hood. That hood over there is like it's in an apartment complex. You drive in, and there's only one way to get in and one way to come out. Anyway, so my thing I was pushing, hey, let's go over there to that hood right there and let's go light that hood up. Or let's go over there and see if we can catch a couple slipping and run it back. So that's what we did. We all decided that we all got in the car. I was driving. Now, I know it was me, Bubba. I want to say it was Baby Joker for sure. And there was a fourth homie from Tulare County. He was from Tulare County. I want to say his name was Weddle. Down ass homie. I ended up doing something with him the following day. We did a few, but so we ended up, matter of fact, we ended up trading. I dropped off my Explorer with Nena, and she let us use her Bronco. So she had a Bronco, and we all jumped in the Bronco. And like I said, I was driving. We drove over there to that hood I was talking about, La Pasada, and it wasn't cool that day. There was something about what we seen over there that day. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't cool. So the whole thing was like, we'll come back. And this was broad daylight. Our thing was like, it's probably better to come back at nighttime. So that's what we would end up doing. But now on our way back to Nena's pad, I'm driving, we're chopping it up. All four of us got guns on us. We're all packing. Joker, I remember he had a 50 caliber Desert Eagle. Crazy gun. I mean, it was crazy. I don't know if you guys know about 50 calibers, but those bullets right there, they'll cut you in half if you get hit with the 50 caliber. I mean, they carry so much velocity through the air that if a 50 caliber bullet goes anywhere near you, like say it goes within a foot of you, if it's just flying by, the velocity, the way that it's cutting through the air, it will rip an arm off. It will rip a leg off or something like that. Seriously. That's not no bullshit. A 50 caliber Desert Eagle put some damage. It do some damage, seriously. So, Joker had a 50 caliber Desert Eagle. I had my 357 and my 38. I was double fisted. Bubba, I know he had I want to say a 44 or something, and the other homie, I want to say he had like a 9mm, a Glock or something. So we're driving and we're chopping it up, and I blanked out. Whatever happened, I don't know how I lost focus of what was going on. But so I'm driving, and there's an individual that's crossing the street, pedestrian, just a regular cat crossing the street, and he's walking slow. So I come up to the stop sign, and I come up to a rolling stop, and this dude's walking slow. So I just gun it. I go through. Now, across on the other side of the street, coming in our direction, there is an undercover unit that's waiting to come across through the stop sign as well. They see me punch it and gun past that pedestrian. So they ended up flipping a bitch. They come up behind me and they light us up. So this is where I blank out. So when they light us up, I'm like, fuck, man. I start to pull over. Thinking that, we're just going to get a ticket or something. And somebody, I think it was either Bubba or BJ, tell me, bro, what are you doing? We all got fucking guns on us, bro. Fucking punch that shit. So you ain't got to tell me twice, man. I was gone. I ended up flooring that shit. I went through all the residential area, all the residential neighborhoods over there by Ryder and those streets over there. I don't remember the exact name of the streets, but I remember I was in a residential area gunning, flying through stop signs, and I was going so fast, driving so crazy that they abandoned pursuit. They basically stopped and was like, this dude's going to end up killing somebody. So when we ended up getting back to Nana's, we get like a block to the house. Bub was like, hey, when we get there, pull up into the driveway and the top of this car, it comes off. Let's as soon as we jump out, just unclip it and take the top off and let's just throw it in the backyard so that, if they drive by, they're not going to see the vehicle and identify it, right? So that's what we do. We pull up to Nana's, we all jump out, we pop the top off and we carry it and throw it in the backyard and we're back in the house. Now, this is where it gets kind of funny, and this is where I know I've already talked about this part. So we're in Nana's house, and this is after that incident, after the high speed, and I'm double fisted. I'm keeping security on the house. It's the same. Matter of fact, Willow and Angel Martinez could have got some lessons if they would have been there that day. This is how you keep security, and this is what you do when you're called to somebody's house and you're there for the purpose of keeping security on their house. These are the same two individuals that came to my apartment in Campbell that pissed on themselves. Remember those two? Yeah, those two. So anyways, we're just kicking it now. We're there kicking it. We're drinking beer, and I'm running around like a fool in the house. I got two guns. Again, I'm double fisted, and I keep the guns on me at all times because that's what I'm there for. I don't know if these fools are gonna pull up at any given time, but I want to be ready. I kept one in my waistband, and I believe I had the 38. I put the 357 in the back of my waistband. I had the 38 in my hand. So me, Bubba, and Baby Joker are in the back room. There's a pool table back there, and we're chopping it up, and we're talking, and I'm drinking. I got a beer in one hand. I got the 38 in the other. And I move my hand one way, and all of a sudden the 38 goes off. I blow a hole in the couch. The gun goes off. It was a hairline trigger. And when I did that, when the gun went off, Joker, BJ, he jumped up. He jumped so high, man, that I couldn't stop laughing. It looked funny. Out of my peripheral, all I see him is just jump. He jumps. And he ends up hitting the ground. He's like, bro, you fucking shot me, fool. You know what I'm saying? He's like, man, put the gun down, bro. Please, bro, put the gun down. And I'm laughing, though. You know what I mean? I'm laughing. Big old dummy. I know. Tell me I'm a dummy. I'm laughing, and he's looking around, feeling his legs, and he's like, bro, where'd that bullet go? He's like, man, am I bleeding anywhere? He's like, he turns around, and he's like, nah, man, you ain't bleeding, man. I'm looking at the couch. Bro, the bullet is right there. It's in the couch. Nobody shot you, man. But he's like, bro, do not pick that gun up, man. Leave that motherfucker right there on the table. So, that was something that happened, and we joked about it over the years about how I almost shot him. He swears up and down that it was because I was drunk, which is bullshit, but it's something that happened. That 38 did have a hairline trigger on it. You barely had to touch it, and it would go off. Anyway, so that's pretty much what happened. That day, Joker ended up bouncing. He didn't spend the night. He ends up bouncing. Of course, Bubba and them stayed out there because they're from Salinas. The other homie from Tulare, he ended up staying with me. Now, me and him went on a cold mission on a couple of them the next day. I told you guys about those. I remember specifically in war stories. So I'm not going to go over those again with you guys, but I remember talking about them. So I'm not going to get back into them. Now, let me just say this, and this is going to lead up to Santa Clara. And a lot of that, the Santa Clara stuff, I think you guys are going to really like that because I'm going to go into everything that happened in Santa Clara. I'm talking about detailed everything. And then everything that happened from the time I was in the county jail all the way up until when everything happened. So, a lot of throughout the years, when I would go through the adjustment center, I would run into, Silencio, Bobby Lopez, and his old lady. He ended up putting me in touch with his old lady at one point in time. They call her J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez. She obviously took his last name through marriage, so they used to call her J-Lo. Now, I would stay in touch with her over the years, and she would become to be like a sister to me. We got real close. She's somebody that, that I had a lot of respect for. And, we used to be in touch. A lot of it was because of business, because she was like a facilitator at one time. She had a lot of information that would get passed to her, and then she would facilitate that to some of us that were out there. Like a lot of the other females that were getting used for, information hubs or phone drops or mail drops or whatever. Well, J-Lo was one that, she would get contacted. She was in touch with, Skip and Corny and Pinky and those guys. So she had a lot of information and she stayed in the know. Now, she was one of the few females that was trusted and respected like that. So I maintained an open line with her throughout the years. Even when I was out there in Ukiah, at some point, I would drive out there to San Jose. I'd kick it with her. She had some girls. At that time, they were babies, but, I got to be like their uncle. To this day, they call me Uncle Box. I watched them grow up. Matter of fact, years later, when I would move to Campbell, I remember I'd be a grumpy old man, or they used to call me a grumpy old man because they'd be out playing. My courtyard used to be full of kids, and they'd throw a ball against my wall or something, and I come out, hey, what you guys doing out there? Stop that shit. You know what I mean? But anyways, I watched them grow up, and J-Lo was somebody that I had an immense amount of respect for. So at one point, I would end up sending a visitor to go pull. I want to say it was Pinky at that time. I pulled Pinky out. That's who they wanted me to pull because, it got spread out. They didn't want Corny getting too many visits. They didn't want Pinky to get too many, Skip to get too many. They wanted to kind of spread it out. Now, at this point, this is when, well, it would come later, but for this same reason right here, when they would become well established out there in Santa Rita, and then later on, when they would move them to the Glenn Dyer facility in Oakland, which is a federal detention facility, they would get in touch with all the figureheads on the streets. You guys can imagine San Francisco, San Jose, Oakland, Sacramento, Stockton, Watsonville, Salinas, Modesto, the Valley. So there was a lot of different RCs out there that were all sending visitors over there to the Glenn Dyer facility to pull one of them out. And at some point, they were like, hey, we're getting too much traffic. There's too many people coming to see us. So they wanted to condense everything. They wanted to basically consolidate all these visits, and I was going to be appointed as like the region administrator. They had a name for it, a title for it, and everything. All the RCs were going to report to me, and then I was going to take all that information, and it was all going to be consolidated and sent up at one time to minimize the visits. And I'll get into that later. I'll get into all that later and how it worked and some of the things that we were setting up and just everything that deals with that, the communication part of it and all that. So at that point, when I send the visitor up there, I'm thinking I'm going to get a little bit of directives. I'm going to get some directives basically that are going to pertain to Ukiah. Start to build a regimen out there, which I had done before. So it was going to be easy for me now that I had already done it once, but build out there and, basically take control of that area out there, Sonoma County, Ukiah, all those little towns out there, and start building out there. That's what I thought, or I was anticipating. However, they ended up busting my bubble. My visitor comes out, I get their response, and basically the directives are, we need you to relocate to Santa Clara, San Jose. As you know, everybody that was out there, Goose, Chico, everybody that was functioning out there, Bad Boy, they're all gone. They were all indicted, Operation Black Widow, so there's a whole crew out there that dispersed. When they hit, they got Bird from Salinas and all the other C's that were out there from different areas, but that were going out there to San Jose and were kind of working with different individuals. That's why they wanted me to go back out there and find all these individuals, get all the stragglers, get them all together, get that regiment running, get it back up, running and established. So, I was like, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It was kind of discouraging. I had been, I felt like I was getting pushed and pulled everywhere, from San Francisco to Sonoma County, from Sonoma County to Monterey County, now from Monterey County to Santa Clara. I was just tired, man. I was tired. I wanted to settle down where I wanted to settle down, and I wasn't expecting this. And when they said Santa Clara, I knew it was bad news, because I told you guys before that I'd always heard that Santa Clara was a county that you just did not want to mess around with, especially when you're talking about NF activity. They got a lot of history out there, and the NF has a bad name out there in Santa Clara County, and they're used to washing up C's that have gotten caught up. So, when I first got that information, I was like, or I got those directives, I told Vicky, I'm like, look, this is what it is. So, we're going to basically have to move out there, and her whole family was set up out there in Ukiah. That's all she knew. She'd never been around regiments and, the things that I exposed her to. On some level, she seemed like maybe somebody that was slinging some weed. Some of the guys that she was with were just low-level type of cats. But I was exposing her to a lot of different things. And she was, for the most part, she wouldn't ask questions. And when I told her we had to relocate, she didn't even think twice. She was like, well, hopefully we can find a place out there. So, my saving grace was J-Lo. J-Lo was out there in Santa Clara. Well, she was out there in Campbell. I didn't know the difference between Campbell, all them little small cities around San Jose. I thought it was all just kind of like together. And when she told me she was living in Campbell, again, I didn't know nothing about that area, who lived out there, what hoods were out there, none of that. But, I get at her and I tell her, Jay, look, I got to move out there. I got to find a spot out there. The fellas asked me to move out there and get everything situated. So I need your assistance. I need you to help me locate a spot out there. I don't know the area. I don't know anybody out there. I don't have no resources. So that's what I need you to do. Aside from that, I know you know some homies out there. I need you to be the one to plug me in. Just kind of like the same situation with Sophie. Sophie was my plug she was the one that was going to plug me in with all the people that I needed to get in touch with. J-Lo did the same thing, except she also helped me with housing. Now, when I hit her up about, getting me into a spot out there, she was like, you know what? The complex I'm living in right now, matter of fact, there's 2 vacancies, and the landlord is somebody that I'm super cool with. So I'm pretty sure I can get you in. And I was like, done, make it happen. Because I need to get out there on the first thing smoking. And I want to get this done now. I don't want to wait. It was around that time of the year. It was around summertime. I just wanted to get out there, get situated, and just get that part of it over. So, it ended up working out. She called me back and she was like, I spoke to the landlord. He's like, come down, check the place out, and he'll give you the keys. Simple as that. Again, I didn't know nothing about Campbell. Didn't know what hoods were out there. I didn't know that there were sureños out there. Didn't know that they were deep out there. I didn't know what part of Campbell that they were in. I didn't know where the norteños were. I didn't know nothing. It seemed like, when I first went out there to check out the apartment, that it was a cool neighborhood. I didn't see nothing. It just looked like an upper class type of neighborhood that, there was nothing happening. There ain't nobody on the corner, no gang members out there. Was nothing like that. For those of you that are from San Jose, Santa Clara, you guys know Winchester and Impala, Cadillac, those 2 areas right there, unless you drive down those 2 streets, you're not going to see nothing out there. Campbell looks like a nice area, an upper class type of area. It's not like the east side of San Jose. So, I would go out there. I'd take Vicky. We'd go out there, spend a weekend just looking at the apartment and signing the paperwork. We signed a lease, and it was simple as that. Within the following week, I ended up getting a U-Haul truck. We packed everything up and we lugged everything to San Jose. So that's the beginning of Santa Clara County. That's basically where we're at right now in Inner Demons. And again, this is when I'm going to start getting into a lot of the stuff that I know you guys, a lot of you want to hear about it, and I'm going to go as in depth as I can, probably more than my book. But I'm going to talk about a lot of the things that were happening out there, everybody that was involved. I'm not going to be throwing out a whole bunch of names. You guys that have read the book, you guys will know who's who. But, this is probably the most important part of Inner Demons right here from this point on, because this is when everything's going to start happening. And now, again, at some point, when I do these episodes, I might think about something that happened in the past, and I might just backtrack and spend an episode just breaking down something that I missed or that I didn't really cover the way I wanted to cover it. So just keep that in mind, man. I hope, a lot of this stuff are things, bits and pieces of things that I've talked about in the past, but I hope you guys don't see it as being repetitive, because it's important to get to where we're at right now at this point in Inner Demons. Again, I'm getting ready to step off into Santa Clara, move out there, and, I want to make this part of it as thorough and as concise as I can possibly do it. So anyways, with that said, you guys, this is probably a good place to end this episode, this episode 47. I'll be back with 48, if not tomorrow, sometime over the weekend. I'm going to hit you guys with a couple war stories. I'm working on that profile. I should have that out. Hopefully, we're going to premiere it. Again, if you guys got questions, drop them in the community section. I'll find them. I want to do a Q&A. It's been forever since I've done one. So with that said, man, this is your boy B. This is episode 47 of Inner Demons, and I'm out.